Topic 7. The illusion of choice, the reality of regret. You think you chose this life, the job you took, the person you loved, the city you stayed in. You think regret arises from bad decisions. But what if regret persists precisely because you never truly made a decision at all? This is the horror no one wants to face. That your life wasn't shaped by free will, but by momentum, by fear, by default, by silence in moments when action was needed. And now you're grieving choices that were never really yours. Psychologists call this choice paralysis. When faced with multiple paths, the brain shuts down. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, is overwhelmed by complexity. And so we default to inaction, or follow someone else's advice, or do what makes sense. But the emotional residue of regret still forms, because somewhere inside, you know you never truly chose. That's the paradox. Regret requires ownership. But what happens when you regret something you didn't consciously decide? You can't fix it. You can't forgive it. You can only replay it obsessively, as if you might find a sliver of volition hiding underneath the compromise. And you never do. In his seminal work, The Paradox of Choice, psychologist Barry Schwartz argues that modern life offers too many options, but with the illusion that every wrong outcome is your fault. This is the tyranny of agency. We are told we are free, but given no map for navigating freedom. And when the life we live fails to satisfy us, we assume we chose poorly. But what if there is never any real freedom in the first place? Behavioral economics suggests that most of our decisions are predetermined, shaped by bias, availability heuristics, social pressure, trauma responses, and neurological predisposition. The choice was never clean. It was rigged by a system you didn't design. Yet regret falls on your shoulders as if you were omnipotent. And then comes the greatest cruelty, the illusion of retroactive control. The mind looks back and imagines you could have done better. But you couldn't. Not with the brain you had, the information you lacked, the fear you didn't name. You were not choosing. You were surviving. Still, the regret endures. Not because the decision was wrong, but because the self that made it was never fully present. The decision was made in absence, and that absence haunts you more than the outcome. Neuroscience supports this. The posterior medial cortex, involved in imagining alternate selves, lights up during regret. Your brain creates a version of you that would have chosen better. A ghost self who had the clarity, the courage, the knowledge you lacked. And that ghost becomes a tormentor, because they did what you didn't. They lived the life you didn't, but they were never real. And here you are, punished not for failing, but for never truly existing at the point of choice. This is why regret is immune to logic, because logic assumes a decision was made. But regret emerges most intensely when you were too fragmented to act clearly, too buried to know what you wanted. This isn't accountability. It's identity collapse. The part of you that could have made a different life never got to the surface. And now the life you're living feels like someone else's echo. So if you never made the choices you regret, what exactly are you mourning? Topic 8.